back to All the Best with Jess. Today, I am joined by Alex, who is the founder of Sunkissed Media, which is a Long Island-based marketing firm that is helping companies and individuals and entrepreneurs, big and small, make an impact. Also, someone who I have been able to do a little bit of research on based on your website and your social media. And I love the fact that Sunkissed Media, it really feels like such a perfect reflection of the mission that you have. So my first question for you, and first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank
I'm so
you.
honored to have you. What inspired you to turn your big agency experience into a business that helps local entrepreneurs grow?
I feel like the larger corporations often get a lot of the spotlight and, they have bigger budgets to work with oftentimes. And, now, especially having my own small business, and even before then, I've really always looked out for the smaller guys, not just in business, but in life too. And I knew that it could be really beneficial to small businesses and also be really intrinsically rewarding for me to know that I could take the marketing skills that I've gathered through my experiences working at marketing agencies, working for large corps, and take that knowledge of like social media management, SEO, email campaigns, and ultimately any type of marketing strategy that helps drive new customers and new clients to businesses. And so that was really the mentality I had going into this new business, is using my knowledge and my experience for good to help local businesses around the island and even elsewhere. Like, there's a couple of clients I've worked with in other parts of the country and even the world. So it's a nice pivot to go from large corps and agencies to now working more one-on-one with the smaller mom and pop shops and businesses.
That's really incredible, because I feel like there's been this trend where the local mom and pop shops here in the island, New York City, I mean, probably everywhere around the country, they're kind of going away. And a lot of it has to do with maybe they're not able to compete with the big budgets of these really big brands. And, it's nice to see businesses grow and flourish, but I think that's been difficult for a lot of the local entrepreneurs and businesses. And so that actually leads me perfectly into the next question. So your website, it says that Sunkissed Media believes powerful marketing should be accessible to all businesses. So why is that so important to you?
I think another reason I really fight for this to really help the smaller guys is because when you don't have hundreds or thousands of people on your staff and on your payroll, it's even harder to do more tasks. It's just like a one man or one woman shop, or even if you have just a small team, you're trying to do the day-to-day operations of your business, whether it's providing a service or trying to sell a product. And then you're responsible for getting those new clients and marketing and sales. And I mean, I see this in my own business day to day, how hard it could be to try to juggle all different tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And then you really can't dedicate yourself to like the main things that like the main driver for your business, like what you fell in love with in the first place, the thing that you're good at. You can't dedicate as much time and energy to that because you're trying to get your name out, you're trying to market, you're trying to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So I just figured if I could work as an extension of these businesses teams,
Mm-hmm.
and give them that personalized attention and care, that it would be really rewarding for me to work with them, but also obviously rewarding for them and their families to see their profits and their revenue go up through my help.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think as an entrepreneur, and now I own a business, and it's a little bit different than a marketing business, but it's still client-based, client-focused, but I am the solopreneur, I guess. And when you have that initial dream, I mean, you are at the helm, so if something doesn't get done that day, that is on you. You can't say, oh, that was, that person, or I didn't get that email in time. So something else that I really loved about your messaging is that you said that no one can do it all, and that's okay. And I love that so much. It's like giving yourself grace, like making it okay to not be able to do it all. And in fact, I have a friend who once said, you can do it all, just not all in one day.
Yeah.
So,
that's so true.
yeah, I love that idea because it helps ground me. So I would say, what is one thing, or how have you learned to balance that truth in your own life while running your business, while being a mom, by, all the things? Like, how have you learned to balance and live that idea?
It's so funny because what you just said is literally what I repeat to myself every single day. Like Rome wasn't built in a day, and that's something I constantly have to reiterate.
Hmm.
And to be honest with you, I'm still trying to find that balance. And this is something I was actually saying to my husband recently, is when people say that you need to strive for a work-life balance, it doesn't always look like 50% of my attention is going towards my kids and my husband in a day, and 50% is going towards my work. Like, I'm trying to look at things more from the perspective of like seeing it with a bird's eye view, like
Hmm.
looking at the bigger picture on a day to day basis. There might be days that I'm just like, you know what? I need a break. I'm starting
Hmm.
to burn out. I'm going to take some time off and focus on the kids, take them to the park, do something fun with them. Then the next day, it's just back to, focusing on work, letting the kids play with my husband or,
Hmm.
sending them to daycare. I think that balance is not only really healthy for business owners to see their business thrive and to maintain their, mental health and their well-being, but it's better for everybody. Like it makes me so happy to know that my kids have an amazing daycare they
Hmm.
go to where they do fun crafts and activities and they have the attention that I want them to have from someone who cares. While I'm, able to financially support them and focus on my work when it calls me back, when it's
Hmm.
not just me trying to scramble and juggle everything at once.
Yeah. And I also think, especially as, I mean, I'm a mom as well, like it's almost like this inherent sense of guilt. If you're choosing, maybe you're giving 60 or 70% that day to your business because out of necessity, it's not always just because, well, I don't want to spend time with my kids. I mean, we all need a break, but I think there's that sense of guilt. How do you handle that? Like when that comes up for you?
I just try to, it sounds kind of cliche, but I just try to change the thought process
Hmm.
and focus on the positive because I feel like us moms, we try to juggle everything. We always feel like we could do more. And then
Hmm.
that guilt comes back. And as I said, like something I've been really focusing on is the fact that if I'm working, I can financially support them and my family. And if I'm sending them to a daycare with somebody I trust who I know really cares and they have a lot of fun activities and toys and kids to play with,
Hmm.
that I'm doing something good for them. Not only am I, keeping the roof over our head and feeding them, but they're getting to experience different things, build good social relationships, get out
Hmm.
of the house on occasion. I've tried balancing it where I was working and watching the kids at the same time all the time. And I
Hmm.
just felt like that wasn't fair to anyone. And, to each their own. I'm not knocking
Yeah.
anybody who maybe is able to balance that, but I couldn't. So for me, I want to be able to give my kids my full attention when they're with me. And then I want to give my clients and my work my full attention and let them have fun and explore and meet other children and go to daycare without feeling guilty about it. So ultimately, I just try to keep the focus on, everything I do being in the best interest of everyone involved, me, my clients, my business, and my kids, and my
Yeah.
husband.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. I would see things sometimes online where, someone's running this like multi-million dollar business and, they have like three kids at home with them and they're homeschooling. And, if like you said, to each their own, but recognizing that like what you're best able to give at a certain time, certain seasons in your life, I think is really powerful. And I agree, one of the ways I was able to feel okay about, okay, I'm sending my daughter to preschool today. They're trained professionals to help her explore the world, maybe
Yeah.
even better than me, to give her that perspective. So I love that. And I think it's really key to recognize that. So you've talked about flipping the script when things don't go as planned. Can you share a time when you faced a challenge of some kind, big or small, that really ended up being a blessing in disguise?
Yeah, for sure. So I've definitely experienced quite a few since starting the business, but one thing that really stands out to me is I feel like in the beginning, as I was trying to get my business off the ground, it was kind of hard to get my name out there,
Hmm.
to get clients because I was still building a rapport as a small business
Yeah.
owner. Granted, I had the experience working for agencies, for large corporations, but ultimately people don't want to hire you, especially as a small business owner, until they know they could trust you,
Mm.
that it would be a good partnership, that they ultimately like you. So that kind of forced me to kind of step out of my comfort zone. And I think it helped me not only in a professional setting, but just in my life, like my personal life. Like it kind of gave me the push I needed to get on podcasts, like the podcast we're doing right now, to do public speaking, partake in public speaking opportunities. I've even done some, I guess, crazy things for clients to try to help them win business, but also help me get more comfortable with public speaking and getting my name out there. For example, I was working with an open play place on their marketing, and I knew that events were a big revenue driver for them. So I actually came up with the idea to put together a Miss Rachel event where kids would have the chance to sing and dance with a Miss Rachel impersonator. They'd have snacks, they'd do open play. Long story short, the event sold out and I was Miss Rachel. So yeah,
That's awesome.
So I sang, I danced, I brought instruments. Yeah, yes. I dressed like her. But I mean, not only did it help my client and like score me points because the event did really well, but it kind of shifted my mentality on public speaking and presentations and things like that, because I felt like if I can shake maracas and sing like Miss Rachel, and that is so nerve-wracking for me, like I'm an introvert and that's just not like, I don't know, that type of charisma doesn't come naturally. So if I could do that, I feel like I could essentially do anything. I can easily walk in a room and public speak in my normal clothes, being my normal self, if I can maybe not master, but at least get through a Miss Rachel event where I'm having to step out of my comfort zone.
I feel like moments like that in the moment might be somewhat uncomfortable, but you get something so much from it. That can be the foundation for, as you just said, like anytime you have to walk into some room, you're like, I was Miss Rachel, I can go up to a podium and talk.
Exactly.
You know, that's amazing. I love that so much. And I feel like a lot of businesses too, especially like more of that big brand mentality, there is distance, I feel like, and professional distance between a client and, the service provider. There's some kind of a distance, but that what you're talking about really destroys that distance, but in the best way, where you just were not afraid to literally step out of your comfort zone and do something so impactful. And it helps you to grow as well. I think that's really cool. And so I think, that to me is true collaboration. When, maybe in the original presentation, you had no idea that you might do something like that, but it came to you and you acted on that and they were down to do that. So I just love that. Why do you think that mindset is so important for women entrepreneurs specifically?
So I don't know. I just feel like women understand each other in a way. And this isn't to knock men or male business owners, but there's just like a different vibe when you're, networking and collaborating with women in the business space. And that's why I think collaboration is really important, because let's be honest, even now in 2025, men tend to rule the corporate world. Most small business owners even are men. So I think it's more important than ever, especially in business, for women to stand by one another, to support one another, to hire one another if there's opportunity and it's a good fit, because that's really how we change like the business landscape. That's how women get into higher level positions, when women are supporting other women. That's how women's businesses become successful, because at the end of the day, it's really all about collaboration and networking. You need to have that. Unfortunately, like we can't always do everything on our own. We need that support. And that's why I think it's really important for women to support one another.
I agree. And it helps us to do hard things, where you can see yourself, okay, maybe it's a little scary initially, but, having a support system around you to help to propel you, to just give you that pep talk is really important in a male dominated industry. And in fact, I do this now, but I was a nurse for 10 years and I worked in the operating room. And that's still, there were women, a lot of women are nurses, but as far as like the doctors, the surgeons, like people coming up to be surgeons and training, there are women, but it still remains a very heavily male field. And especially in certain specialties, like say orthopedics, like heavily male dominated. So to be in that room, you see the women that are rising up, they have to almost prove themselves doubly hard, as a male, their male counterpart. I mean, it's not easy either way you slice it, but to see, more women doing that, you're relying on hopefully having a community around them, the ones that thrive. I feel like we're collaborators. So yeah, I mean, I definitely seen that in a different way, but for sure, I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with that.
And even aside from thriving in your business, I even think like leads and business and clients aside, I think it's
Yeah.
also just really inspiring to meet other women who are doing amazing things, growing their businesses, because it reminds you and it reminds me, like as a woman and as a mom, that if other women that I know are able to accomplish all these things, that it's
Mhm.
not crazy to think that I can too. And I think
Yeah.
there's no better way to learn how to be successful in your endeavors than to learn from people who've already done it, who've went through the hurdles, who've climbed the mountains, and who've managed to juggle work and children and all these other, things that make maybe success look hard,
Yeah.
because it kind of gives you the pointers on how you can also accomplish it.
Okay. I love it. Awesome. So, final question for you. What is one simple way that business owners can bring more of that joy and grace into their day to day, even when things are starting to get a little crazy, especially now?
Sorry, my cat's
Oh, I
throwing a
love when the
fit.
cat walks into the screen.
It's always when I'm like on a call, she wants to hang out.
Mhm.
But I think it's a lot of the things we've discussed, just like giving themselves grace, knowing that giving yourself a break and taking time to do things you love and things that you enjoy, prioritizing your mental health and your physical health, going to the gym, going for a walk, painting a picture if you enjoy painting, like taking time to do things that I guess fill your cup, so that when you get back to work and maybe life demands that aren't as fun or as exciting to you,
Yeah.
that you're not burning yourself out, that you're finding that balance that keeps you afloat so that you can give your best to your clients, to your customers, to your family.
Mhm.
Because if you don't strike that balance, it gets hard. And then, that's how you start to resent your work, and, resent some of the tasks you have to do in your day to day job. So it's just, I think, putting yourself first and knowing self care is pivotal.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. Because if you're not happy or you're not at least, doing things you enjoy, you can become bitter. And it's hard to give to others, even if you truly want to. So I love that. This has been an amazing conversation. I really love this. Where can we find some more information about you, like your website or Instagram? How can people
So I
find
have a website. It's www.sunkissedmedia.net.
you?
I'm
Okay.
on Instagram, and you could see a lot of my testimonials and some examples of my work and things like that,
Okay.
on Instagram. So that's at sun period kissed media. That's my handle on Instagram. And then I'm also present on Facebook as well. So yeah, always happy to collaborate with other business owners or help in any way that I can. And thank you so much, Jess. Again, I really appreciate you having me on this podcast today. It was such a
Of
pleasure
course.
speaking with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It really was. I think this is really a true reminder that joy and grace can really live alongside ambition and wanting more for yourself. Even when things get crazy or hectic, you can still remain grounded. So, this has been All the Best with Jess, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.